this time, as we know there are great needs in our small business community. So a couple of things before we get started. I want everybody to take 2 seconds and look to make sure that you are muted. It will be best if we respect the noise in the background and ensure that everybody can hear the presenter. So please just double check that your phone and or your computer is muted. The speakers will unmute themselves when it's their turn to speak, and they will be able to give the information clearly if everybody's background noise is not interrupting. Okay, great. And we see the questions about recording. What's going to happen is that we are going to record the presentation on our end. We will put the recording and the slide deck up on our website. That's www.cabq.gov/economic development. Again, the recording and the slide deck will be available later today on our website. So we understand that everybody wants to record, but we're going to just go ahead and do that on our end. Let's see. One other sort of housekeeping thing. If you have a question, please make sure you put it in the chat box, and we will answer all of those questions at the end of the presentation. So again, just navigate to the chat and put your question in the chat box, and we'll answer at the end. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, this is the COVID-19 Small Business Webinar, Information and Resources for Albuquerque Small Businesses. And I would like to introduce Cynthia Jaramillo. She is the Director of Economic Development, and she would like to just say a few initial welcome remarks.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. As Jennifer Esquivel mentioned, I'm the Director of Economic Development for the City of Albuquerque. I'd like to officially welcome you. Thank you for joining us. We know that the majority of the participants are small business owners, and so we know that your time is very valuable, and we couldn't be more. I just want to express gratitude for you participating. We have a team of experts that are going to walk you through, number one, the city's micro business relief program, and then from a high level, they will walk you through the states and the federal government's programs. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jennifer Esquivel, who will serve as our moderator. Again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Okay, thanks, Cynthia. If we can just go forward in the slide deck. So today we're going to talk about, as Cynthia mentioned, we're going to talk about the City of Albuquerque Micro Business Relief Program. We're going to talk about the state of New Mexico COVID-19 programs. We're going to talk about the Department of Workforce Solutions, unemployment status at this time. We will talk about the Albuquerque Community Foundation and the United Way of Central New Mexico's Emergency Action Fund for nonprofits. We will talk about the federal government CARES Act. We will talk about the SBA disaster loans that are available to small businesses. And we also have some resources on our website that we have been keeping up with during this whole period of time, which we'll touch on. There is a way for folks to donate to help small businesses, which we will go over, and just some sort of support local initiatives going on from our department. So up next to talk about the City of Albuquerque Micro Business Relief Program that was launched earlier this week is our brand new Small Business Office Manager, David Sayers. David joins us from DreamSpring, so he has quite a background on small business and lending programs and such. So David, if you will go ahead and unmute yourself and move
Sure
through.
thing. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate your support and the introduction. My name is David Sayers. I'm this new Small Business Office Manager. For those who don't know, the Small Business Office has been established or was established in September 2019. So this is a fairly new office built to serve our small businesses. I started, I think this is my second week in this position, and boy, what a couple of weeks. It has been absolutely chaotic as far as what's going on with our environment right now. But I'm happy that everybody is joining us right now, and without further ado, I'd like to just jump right into the material we have. So first, I'd like to introduce the City of Albuquerque's Micro Business Relief Fund. This is a brand new initiative for the City of Albuquerque. The mayor was granted emergency powers to redirect some money for this relief program. And this program was designed to serve our micro businesses. What is a micro business? We're defining that here as a business that employs 5 employees or less. This grant will be for small businesses, for small businesses with grants up to $5,000. We want those grant funds to be used for operational expenses, payroll, rent or lease payments. This, bear in mind that we at the city, part of the application process, we will ask that you do a report about 6 months down the line to make sure those funds were utilized effectively and appropriately. This is to enable us to allow future relief programs to be established, and it also helps us collect data on our small businesses. Right now, the application is open, and we are reviewing them. $500,000, like it's mentioned up here, was allocated initially for this grant program. Right now, as I speak, I believe 5 p.m. last night, we received over 600 applications. So we will be reviewing each one and making sure we're serving our businesses. Our office has been working around the clock, being very diligent about trying to serve our small businesses and answering all the questions you guys have. So if you would please go to the next slide. So this relief fund, the grant criteria, like I mentioned, 5 employees or less is one of the benchmarks for being eligible. Now, we've been getting a lot of questions if the owner is considered an employee. We're defining 5 employees as 5 full-time employees. No 1099 part-time workers are considered. And yes, the owner is considered an employee. If the owner is not collecting a salary, they are still registered as the business, under the business, and we will consider them as an employee. I just wanted to go ahead and mention that because I've had several questions as far as that. The business must be registered and physically located in Albuquerque city limits, and it has to be registered 6 months or more. This grant is specifically targeted to save those established small micro businesses, and we do realize some folks are perhaps going to try and take an opportunity as maybe funding their startup, and we don't want these funds to going towards startup businesses. So during the application process, we ask that you prove that the business has been in business at least 6 months, and we have several methods of proving that, either through bank statements, maybe the business registration will have the data. If we send the appropriate business registration, we can verify that. Another thing we require is the grant funds must be deposited in a business bank account. Right now, that is shifting possibly, but I wanted to leave that as an open question. But as it stands right now, we are going to require that when the wire goes out, it's going to be deposited into a business bank account. So if you are a small business and you're maybe operating as a sole proprietor and you've just been accepting payments into your personal bank account, which a lot of small micro businesses do, we ask that you set up a business bank account. You can get that established because that's what we're going to require on our end. 6 months from now, like I mentioned, we are going to start following up on how the funds were utilized. And we're going to put together a report for that. I've had a lot of questions about the next bullet. Businesses that are franchises or restricted to patrons above 18 or older will not be eligible for the award. This is a grant, and so we want to support those businesses that are creating jobs and that are appropriate for creating jobs. We don't want to fund tobacco shops or liquor stores, things of that nature for the time being. That's just how we've ruled the rules on this grant process. Some of those rules may shift just a little bit because I'm getting several questions, and we're trying our best to ensure that we're not making exceptions to that rule. Businesses not eligible, if any businesses have 6 or more employees. Now, this is a interesting one because I've had applications come in where a business had, say, for example, 10 employees at the end of last year, and currently they're down to 2, maybe the owner and maybe a manager that are working the business. And I'm going to take a moment. Can you please make sure that you are muted, or we can mute you for you? But thank you so much. I just want to save the time of our patrons that are joining us right now. So back to what I was talking about. Businesses that have 6 employees or more. If you currently have less than 5 or less employees, you are eligible for this grant. Even though prior, maybe the end of last year, you had 10 employees. Right now, the target of this grant is to really save those small businesses. So that has been a question that has come up several times. Businesses located outside of Albuquerque are not eligible for several reasons. A lot of these funds were redirected from that city of Albuquerque, from a program for the city of Albuquerque. So I want to make sure it's serving the city of Albuquerque, at least for now. Things may change in the future as things are changing daily. Businesses in operation in 6 months or less are not eligible. And I think I hit all those points. So we're just going to keep on rolling through. I want to go ahead and everyone could please save their questions till the end. I see questions coming on the chat. We'll be sure to address as many as we can here shortly. Go ahead and scroll. Next slide. Oh, here it is. Excuse me. So required documents. These required documents are put together for 3 primary reasons. One is to ensure that we are funding these small businesses and that the business owner is in fact the owner of that small business. And we do that through several ways. We want to use articles of organization, preferably through the state, articles of organization, articles of incorporation, assigned operating agreement, or 2018-2019 tax returns if available. And the 2018-2019 tax returns, we would only require the page that has the Schedule C perhaps, that shows your name, the business owner's name, and the business on the same page. This is to prove that you're in fact the owner of that business. A copy of the city of Albuquerque issued business license is also required. And again, it has to be 6 months or greater prior to the application. I actually had this question yesterday. If your business license has expired the day of your application, which out of the 600 applications, I had one question so far, and it might be pertinent to you. If your business license is expiring soon, but you apply before it expires, you are still eligible. I want to make that clear as well. Completed payroll spreadsheet to determine the number of employees and hourly wage of employment status. This is to prove that we are meeting those requirements of 5 employees, full-time employees, or less. Business owners must submit a copy of their personal ID. So that will be in the prior to right before funding. We want to do that as fraud prevention measures. We're making sure that we're not giving folks who are outside the state or some fraudsters trying to apply for this grant. So I also had several questions as far as the proof of most recent address. If you can see on that bullet, business owners must submit a copy of personal identification, proof of most recent address. That would be a lease agreement, your personal lease agreement, your personal utility bill, something that is official through some outside entity with a date and your name on it. This is to prove that you are in fact a resident of New Mexico, and again, for fraud prevention reasons. Again, and then finally, we have the last two bullets on the left, a completed W-9 form, W-9, and that's going to be for funding purposes. We want to make sure we're completing those W-9s. We'll be sending those out with the follow-up, the city W-9s at least. And then we're going to request preferably a voided check of the business bank account for deposit. Now, that is the best method if you could start work. If you are, I'm sure many people on this call have already applied. If you want to start gathering some of these items to expedite the process, we're trying to make sure, one of the reasons for this webinar is we're trying to make sure people are aware of the things we're going to require on our end in order to serve you better and quickest. Now, the review process, we are, like I mentioned, working day and night to completely review all these applications. We're actually going to start reviewing more right after this call. The review process is where we're just checking to make sure those licenses are still valid or still have not expired, making sure the businesses do meet those criteria. It's a pretty quick process. And once we verify that information, we'll do a follow-up with each individual business to collect any remaining documents or missing documents. Another question I had is if you submit an application and you are missing a document, maybe a couple of documents, or we have missing information, do you lose your place in your line for funding? No, you don't. But it will impede on how quick we can fund you. At this point, we are inundated with applications, and we like to make sure we're serving our small businesses. So we may not, you will not lose your place in line, but the time of funding will definitely be pushed back because we want to serve the businesses that do have those documents prepared and ready to go. So they will take a bit more of a priority, but you won't lose your place in line. Let's see. I already talked about the business bank account, and also upon funding, we are going to have you fill out a grant fund report, contract. Essentially, we are in the midst of gathering that contract. This is essentially your acknowledgement that you're receiving this grant, and that you're going to be responsible for reporting it on your tax returns, because it is going to be a taxable income and things of that nature. All right. We're just going to keep powering right through this. Where can you find the Micro Business Relief Fund grant? It is at this economic development website with the city of Albuquerque. You can find it there. You can also find it at the Albuquerque Small Business Office website. The link is there and available. We will send for the COVID-19 and practicing social distance. If you are requesting a paper application, we will mail one out to you, and you can either drop it off. We're still structuring a way as an appropriate way to drop off the application, or mail it back. The applications are available in English and Spanish, and we have a support staff that we're building out right now as we speak, that where if you speak Spanish, we do have Spanish navigators who can assist you with the application and all your questions. Okay, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to me. I would like to introduce Wendy. Wendy is an business consultant with the Economic Development Department. We're going to go ahead and unmute her here shortly. Or Wendy, if you like, can chime in and unmute yourself. He's going to start going over some of the outside programs outside of the city of Albuquerque. And thank you again, Wendy, for taking time for this webinar.
Sure. Thank you, David. Good morning, everybody. Let's start with the state of New Mexico's Economic Development Department has a loan guarantee program. This is a really good program because it's going to assist businesses seeking emergency loans or lines of credit to deal with negative economic impacts from COVID-19. How it works is that the New Mexico Economic Development Department will guarantee a portion of the loan or line of credit up to 80% of the principal, or $50,000. Now, the loan proceeds are very flexible and can be used for, but not limited to, working capital, inventory, payroll, and other needs. These loans are this guarantee is operable up to 2 years. And so what you do as the business owner, if this is something that you're interested in pursuing, you're going to go to the bank first. And then the bank is going to apply to the state economic development department for that guarantee. And for more information, please utilize the website at the bottom and Joanna Nelson's email on that. Next program is another one that's being provided through the state of New Mexico's Economic Development Department. It is the LEDA 0% interest loan program. Now, before you get super excited, I need to tell you about some of the caveats here. Now, LEDA is a program that y'all may have heard about. It's also known as the closing fund. When we recruit companies to the state, oftentimes as a way to really close that deal, the state will provide some LEDA funding to that business. Every program that the state provides for companies that we're recruiting into the state are available for our existing businesses within the state of New Mexico. So the LEDA 0% interest loan is going to be limited to what are known as economic-based businesses. So this is going to be manufacturers or typically a service-oriented business that generates greater than 50% of its revenue from out-of-state customers. And so that's kind of the very step one in terms of the criteria for eligibility. LEDA funding can only be used for land, building, permanent infrastructure, can also be used for lease abatement or mortgage assistance. Now, this is a program that frankly a lot of folks don't qualify for. But if you are an economic-based business and you're looking to generate some revenue that can be used for land, building, equipment, infrastructure, lease abatement, or mortgage assistance, then this may be a good program to check out. And so down at the bottom for more information, contact Mark Roper, and he can provide more information about that. Next one. Oh, okay. So as you all know, you're probably familiar with the Department of Workforce Solutions. For folks who have had to let go employees, and there's a bunch, unfortunately, in Albuquerque, that is a common situation right now, especially our retail-based businesses. Workforce Solutions is there to provide help. Questions can be answered when employers call, also workers. And so there's the information for how to contact the Department of Workforce Solutions. Next slide, please.
Okay, hello guys. Kicking off for nonprofits, as you guys know, these funds are not available for nonprofits, but there is some great people doing great work for nonprofits in the area. Next, we have Albuquerque Community Foundation and United Way kicked off an emergency fund. Have teamed up to deploy an emergency fund to support nonprofit organizations struggling with loss and non-recoverable revenue, expenses, and or license or change programs due to COVID-19. ACF and United Way Action Fund will accept requests for short-term funding to support operations, nonprofits, organizations located in the greater Albuquerque area. Now, with an accelerated response time within 10 days, all grants are unrestricted and range from $500 to $5,000. The link below is to apply, where you can actually go to there and get more information on it. Next is the U.S. federal government CARES Act. There's some more information that actually just came out today. So the federal government has promised $350 billion in assistance to small businesses. In the CARES Act, the programs and initiatives in the coronavirus aid relief and economic security CARES Act passed by Congress are intended to assist business owners. New programs and initiatives will soon be available from the Small Business Administration, and I've just seen on the SBA it is available. Overview of the program: 0% interest loans, tax-free loans, payments deferred for 1 year, 500 or fewer employees, up to 10 million for a single business, covers all operating costs. Please go to SBA, where there will be more information on this.
And with the SBA, there's several. This is David Sayers with the Small Business Office. I just want to point out the SBA seems to be updating, changing things almost every other day. Recently, I just noticed that they are announcing that they're going to propose launching grants as well alongside their lending practices. And if you want the latest updates, please just check the SBA. They are doing some creative supportive structures built to support small businesses. So check out their website, sba.gov, to get those updates. Okay. Oh, just SBA right there. Great.
The most popular one is the Small Business Administration Disaster Loan. The U.S. Small Business Administration is offering designated states and territories low-interest federal disaster loans for working capital to small businesses during substantial economic injury as a result of the coronavirus COVID-19 disaster. Loan assistance is available for all New Mexico small businesses. These are the details: up to $2 million in assistance. The interest rates are 3.75% for small businesses without credit available elsewhere. This is for people that don't have a business banking relationship. Go to the SBA. It's more flexible. We actually had a few more updates on the SBA program, so I'm going to let her take it from there.
Thank you, Alex. The SBA is doing a lot of amazing programs, and they seem to be updating them as Alex mentioned by the half day. So the Small Business Economic Injury Disaster Loans, also known as EIDLs, are a terrific way for businesses to get a loan quickly. You do not go through your bank. You apply directly online at the SBA website, and the SBA administers the loan. And I've heard that the turnaround time is about 3 weeks to get funding. So it's a terrific way to get the necessary working capital to help the business to survive until normal operations resume after this economic disaster. They are available only to small businesses when the SBA determines that the company is unable to obtain credit elsewhere. And so, you may want to go to your bank first and look into the state's loan guarantee program. And if that turns out to be not really favorable for you, then get on over to I recommend going to the SBA loan. They're a lot more flexible, and the interest rate is low. There's no cost to apply, and there is no prepayment penalty on these EIDL loans. The amount that you can ask for will be based on the business's actual economic injury and the business's financial need. They can be used for payroll, accounts payable, pay fixed debts, and other bills due to negative impact of COVID-19. This loan is available to small businesses and most private nonprofit organizations. The term is up to 30 years. It isn't a guarantee that yours will be 30 years. It's based on the business's ability to repay the loan. So the SBA is going to determine the term length. And it's going to be based on the business's ability to repay. These loans that are over 25K require collateral. So under 25K loan, no collateral is required. And so the best thing to do is to go to the SBA website. They have an online application. The SBA is recommending that folks apply between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. because I've heard from business owners that they'll be partway through the application and get kicked off the system. The system's really being taxed right now because so many businesses across the U.S. are applying. So that pretty much covers the EIDL. As I say, go directly to SBA for this one.
Okay, this is David Sayers again, Small Business Office Manager. We're getting close to the end of the webinar, and then we'll open it up for questions. I do want to note that the initial Zoom meeting was set up accidentally as a meeting instead of a webinar. So we do realize that people are being left out. I just want to point out that we will be sending out this link to this webinar, the recording, to make available to everybody who can attend. Now, I want to talk about this small business and organization guide. There is a guide live that's being updated daily with with the resources you heard today and additional resources as we learn about them. That can be found at the City of Albuquerque Economic Development Department at that link, and you can check it out. And please make sure to check it every day if you are going to be looking at that link. It does change quite often. And then there will be available resources listed on that guide as things change during this coronavirus epidemic. So the One Albuquerque Fund, right now we're working on, One Albuquerque Fund is developed first for housing and tackling homelessness. This is a fund that Jennifer actually, I believe, knows a bit more details about. Jennifer, would you like to share some your insight as far as the One Albuquerque Fund?
Sure, happy to jump in. So the One Albuquerque Fund was created by Mayor Keller and team. It was launched in January. And as David said, housing is one component, youth is another component, officer recruitment and workforce training are the other two as well. This fund at this time is willing to take donations. We've had several questions about how can we donate to help small businesses. If you call or email the One Albuquerque Fund and earmark your donation for small businesses, we are going to be working with the fund to use the donations to increase our grant program if possible. That's something that's being worked on, but this is the place to donate right now if you're wanting to help. And I'll just jump in with this. So support local ABQ. This is something that the City of Albuquerque Economic Development Department has been heavily pushing on social media. So we're letting residents know that these are the ways that you can support local businesses by purchasing a gift card, ordering delivery or carry out, shopping online, tipping extra, and sourcing local groceries. There are going to be some training sessions that are being put on by the University of New Mexico, and they're going to be helping businesses get online if they haven't been able to figure that out yet. So that link of information is on the small business resource guide that David just mentioned. So if you're in need of help, assistance to get online, there is some opportunities being offered to help businesses do that. And for businesses, if you are open, if you have an online store, either follow us or tag us at CABQ Econ Dev on social media. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we'll try and help echo posts as we see them in our feed. And so lastly, this is the contact information for our office. You have David Sayer's contact information and our general department contact information. So with that, this is nearing the end of the webinar, so we'll go ahead and jump into questions. The first question, team, is from Catherine Ravenwood, and her question is, I am self-employed, no employees. I see clients at home. Now I cannot have anyone in my home. Am I eligible for a grant to help me move my profile and business online?
Hello, Catherine. This is David Sayers. Yes, you are eligible. Contractors, individual contractors who operate as their own business entity, as well as sole props, they're all eligible for this process. If you do have your City of Albuquerque business registration and you can prove that you've been in business over 6 months, and obviously you have less than 5 employees, that is the criteria. So I want to make that clear that that is eligible. That's the criteria at this point.
Okay, thanks, David. The next question comes from Brendan Baca. I believe this is in regards to the City of Albuquerque fund. The grant program. In the form, there is a fill-in for property owner. Is this asking for the owner of the physical property or business is renting from?
Business, preferably. If you operate out of your home is your business property. Essentially, you're using that mailing address. Use the property owner for that field. If you own your own home, you could just go ahead and say owner, occupied owner, owner of that piece of property. So we just want to get information and possibly, as far as retail spaces and commercial properties, to see who is managing those properties you are residing in at this time.
Okay, next question from Marcus D. Ball. Can the funds be used to pay credit card or existing loan payment so we do not default? If we made an error on the form, how do we correct?
So yes, and the funds can be used to pay credit card debt or existing business debt. The credit card debt must be tied in with your business, and you must be able to report that when we circle around in 6 months to gather that information, how the funds were used. We're going to ask for proof of that. Reason being, we're not going to, we're not going to fund child support payments or anything like that. We want to make sure the funds are being used appropriately. So that's why we're structuring a follow-up. And if you can prove that the expenses and the money was spent for business purposes only, you should be absolutely fine.
Okay, great. Next question is from James Wilkinson. What about food trucks that work and licensed, registered, and stored in Albuquerque?
That sounds like it all fits the criteria, so yes, they're eligible.
Okay, next question is from MJ Carrillo. Is this for only Albuquerque residents? I'm not sure which program he's referring to, but go ahead, David.
I'm going to assume that that's a grant program. Yes, at this time, it's only for Albuquerque residents. Los Ranchos, Rio Rancho, parts of the South Valley are actually outside of the Albuquerque city limits. And unfortunately, they are not eligible, and that's just the nature of things at this point. There are initiatives and conversations going on here in the Economic Development Office how to support those businesses surrounding Albuquerque. But right now, this was a very fast, I don't know if you guys can comprehend how fast this program was launched. we were able to redirect, get lawyers approval, get this program off the ground within a week, almost, what is it now, 2 weeks actually. So this was lightning fast. And at this time, that's just a target for this grant program. We are working on several other programs that hopefully we can support all the other businesses out there. So I think we've had conversations about having weekly webinars or bi-weekly webinars to share that information. There has been no decision on that yet, but just please contact my office or my phone number. I do have a personal work cell phone number I want to make available to everyone. I think it was listed up here, but that number, actually that's the office number. I'll give everybody my personal work cell phone number. It's 505-252-3473. I make myself available to support our small businesses. Sorry, I went off on a little tangent, but continue with the questions.
Okay, next question is from Lawrence. My business license expired just recently, but the offices are closed for renewal, and I'm trying to register online, and it is not letting. What happens in that case?
So that's in the planning department. You're going to have to call the planning department and contact them to get an updated business registration. We don't handle that here in our department. So I know the planning department, most of them are working remotely, but I've heard that you can contact them. So if you would like, Google or go to the City of Albuquerque website, City of Albuquerque Planning and Zoning Department at City Hall, and I'm sure you can find that information. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but that's where you need to go.
Yeah, Lawrence, I will chime in. The planning department has been working in the past few weeks to move everything online and to accept digital signatures. We announced that at our press conference with the mayor on Monday, and so just check in with the planning department to get that renewed. But everything in the planning department is still operating, it's just not in person. The next question is from Sarah K. How do I ensure my application was received with the correct attachments?
You should have been redirected after submitting your application to a page that says thank you for submitting. I don't remember the actual vocabulary on that page, but that's the page you should have been directed to. Once you get that page, your application was received. As far as the attachments, we will review those individually. If you are missing attachments or if you are missing documents, you have an opportunity to connect with us to get those documents over to us, but you do not lose your place in line. As long as the application is submitted, we have it.
Okay, great. Next question is from Juan Lechuga. Is the county doing a similar program for businesses registered in Bernalillo County?
Unfortunately, I can't speak on behalf of the county. You would have to contact, I don't have a contact on me right now, but we can follow up maybe when we send out the link to this email, a county contact. We'll follow up with them.
Next question from Apex. I submitted the 1120S form. Does that meet requirements of proof of ownership?
That should, if your name and your business is on it, and that's a government issued document, that is more than sufficient. Yes.
Okay, next question from Connie Fong in regards to the state LIDA program from out-of-state customers. Does this include short-term rentals?
Go ahead, Wendy.
Sure. So if I understand the question, it is can LIDA fund short-term rentals of a business property? Does that sound like I understand that question properly?
Connie, if you're on, if you want to just go ahead and clarify your question, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I'll just move ahead.
I'm sorry, it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kanani Fong, and I work with a group of short-term rental owners here in Albuquerque. We work through several platforms, Airbnb, VRBO, and HomeAway, and many have seen up to 90% to 100% of their rentals for the next 2 months go away. And it's also very uncertain as the year goes on and there is no vaccination for this, how this is going to impact our businesses. So the question is there are short-term rental owners who are looking for mortgage relief, and they are wondering if the LIDA loan program might be able to help them.
I understand. So this is for folks that own essentially Airbnb type properties.
No, hold on. We're running off of several platforms, including Airbnb.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I get it. I understand what you're saying.
Right. I would say 50% of the business is from out-of-state clients, especially with the production runs that we're getting through the 2 studios.
Okay, so that would not be considered an economic-based business, because the customer, if you think about the revenue coming from out of state, the customer can't come to the state and spend money. So it has to be customers that are somewhere in the world, somewhere else in the United States, and you're sending the invoices. You own a business, you're sending the invoices to New York, Texas, or some other country.
Okay, so you're looking for goods.
It can be a service as well. So long as greater than 50% of the revenue for that company is coming from out-of-state customers. When the customer comes to the state of New Mexico, that falls under a category that's more around tourism. And so it doesn't qualify as an economic-based business. Does that answer?
Yeah, I understand the justification. I just don't think that the needs of short-term rental owners have been accepted as a valid business here in Albuquerque. And I would ask everybody here to begin doing that, because we are a small but growing force.
Hi, Kanani. I'm just going to chime in here for the sake of time. We want to get through a couple more questions. You can email our team to get some further clarification, or really this program is from the state, so I would encourage you to reach out to them.
Okay.
We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next question, which was from Debbie. What about the Paycheck Protection Plan through the SBA?
Go ahead, Wendy.
Okay, great. That's a really good question, because that's just fresh. For folks that aren't familiar with this new program, the Paycheck Protection Program is part of the new Federal CARES Act. And what it does is it authorizes up to $349 billion with a B in forgivable loans to small businesses to pay their employees during the COVID-19 crisis. All loan terms will be the same for everyone. The loan amounts will be forgiven. So that's a beautiful word in the lending world. As long as the loan proceeds are used to cover payroll costs and most mortgage interest, rent, and utility costs over the 8-week period after the loan is made, and employee and compensation levels are maintained. So what the purpose of this Paycheck Protection Program is, they want to make sure that the businesses don't let go their employees. And so it is forgivable if the business is able to maintain payroll. You can apply through an existing SBA lender. And we've got a bunch of them here in the state of New Mexico. You can apply starting April 3rd. And I'm just kind of filling myself in as we talk.
It's okay. Can we actually just we'll have a follow-up, and just please take down this information, especially my information. David Sayers, email me with your detailed questions, I'll be sure to follow up. I'd like to continue moving on for time's sake. So if you could ask this question, Jennifer.
Sure. So the next question is also about SBA from Candace Carnes. I would like to apply for an SBA loan, but I don't know how to determine the needs based on the duration of how long they might be closed.
So the SBA, just repeat the last part of that question. How do you determine the needs for your business?
We have no idea how long we will remain closed. How do I know what I need?
The SBA is offering, I think right now, extended first payment terms. I think you can, or delayed first payment, I think up to a year now. I think when you can verify that. It used to be 6 months, but now I think it's a year delayed first payment. So hopefully this thing is resolved and contained within that year. But I know that that's part built into the SBA loan program.
Okay, next question is from Old School News Styles. Our landlord is having us sign a document to protect them. How do I know that these documents are good for me and my business?
That is this a commercial space or is this can you ask, do we have that?
Old School News, if you want to unmute yourself to answer that question.
Okay, if we can't get the question, I'd just like to just continue moving on. I'll be sure to follow up on an email, or if that person who asked the question would like to contact me. I need to ask detailed questions. I can't speak on residential, but commercial, I could potentially help you. So continue.
Next question is from Candace Carnes, microloan question. If our city license has recently expired, I think we've addressed that question, so we'll just go on.
Yep.
Payroll protection, we answered that question as well.
And if anybody is on right now that would just like to unmute and chime in, we want to utilize the last few minutes effectively. So if you have a question right now, just go ahead and jump in really quick, make it brief, please.
David, I have a question for you. This is Apex Machining LLC.
Yes.
The 1120S form that I submitted was a PDF form sent to me by my CPA. I was looking at the form now. The signature field is empty because I actually go over there and sign it. So do I need to sign it electronically? And if so, how do I update my application with that updated information?
If it was prepared by your CPA and the CPA contact information is on that document, we could potentially accept that. I will review it individually. I'll see if we will require a signature, and I'll follow up with you. And if I'll be issuing phone calls and you can and emails, and so that's when I'll collect. And if you do need a signature, I'll collect that document signed.
Okay, yeah, the CPA info is on there. Thank you.
That should be sufficient enough. That should be fine.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next question, please.
Question. Where do we apply for this grant?
The grant is located at the City of Albuquerque Economic Development Department website. It is also available if you want to Google Albuquerque Small Business Office. It is available on that landing platform. If you would like, you can call me at my, or you can text me at my work cell phone number. It is 505-252-3473. Just text me or email and your name and what you're requesting, just the application, and I will be sure to have that emailed out.
Thank you.
So just to wrap things up, because we're just 2 minutes out from our allotted time, we want to respect everybody's time. This presentation, recording of it will be available later on our website, www.cabq.gov/economic development. We'll be sure to post this later today. And we will be hosting future webinars. We know that several people also didn't get to join this one, so we may do that again, this exact one again. So if you were in it today, please just realize that if there's one in the next day or so, that will be the same one that you listened to in today. We want to thank everybody. We realize that, you're in a difficult situation. We are doing all that we can at the city to support our small businesses. Regularly check our website as we continue to update things. Follow us on social media as we put a lot of information out there as well. And again, we just want to thank everybody. We want to remind everybody to be safe and be well. Make sure you're practicing social distancing, staying home as often as you can, keeping 6 feet apart from others. And we wish you all a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.